So just installing an UberChip today in this 7502, should be a PU22. I'm going to grab the laser out of the 5502, which will be a PU18, and put it in here because the PU18 is getting an X station and the laser unit on this one's faulty. You hardly ever get them without any damage on that. But anyway, it's not working, it won't boot genuine discs. So step one is obviously dismantle this. 6 screws, all the joints in here are easy. It's not a difficult install, you don't need to put it under the scope or anything. So we'll just tear this one open. Hung across the school, that's just fucked up. And just because the book is there with all the stuff you're meant to do, I call the bluff. Live your life, enjoy no race rats, and that's a fact. And if you don't, well, no big deal, no massive wounds in life to heal, no sacred sacrament to steal, no love to feel. Like hell is real, it's life. That's how I feel, decapitated heads. No best to take another realm, this life is hell and death is real. Just because you have it, it's a pattern life, then just us to go about and be a bust. Cause in the end, you can't defend the fate delivered, see the end. You'll never survive if you're scared to die. You'll never equate the shit if you're scared to get hit. Fall from great heights, grow wings and learn to fly. You'll never survive if you're scared to die. You're scared to die. You'll never survive if you're scared to die. What's going on there? Equate the shit if you're scared to get hit. Fall from great heights, grow wings and learn to fly. Old MODCHIP. I'm gonna cut that one out. Scared to die. And my side cutters. You'll never survive if you're scared to die. If you're scared to die. Alright, found him. So there's usually a tray over the motherboard. You can desolder them. I didn't know this was a chipped one. They often are. But lately I just cut them off. Cut each one off. There's the PAL 60 mod. I might leave that on, but for some reason on these later models I usually do get color on NTSC. Even without that, it's probably just really old sets that don't do it. Don't ask me how that works. I know these use a clock synthesizer to do the subcarrier, which is for producing color on SVD on composite. Separately, it's not like the older models where you've got the main clock divided by 15 on NTSC for your subcarrier and divided by 12 for PAL equals your color burst. The two clocks are synthesized separately and sent out separately. One is not derived from the other. Often I'll spray these old double-sided tapes with some sticky remover stuff and let it soak and get it right off, but I'm not going to bother at this stage. So that's our board ready to work on. The version 2.1 of UberChip. I've heard that some of the NTSC systems are a bit different with their lockouts for the protection of copied games. But this is full stealth on a PAL console. I haven't tested it on a US console. And this is a PAL console, so every anti-mod game is booted successfully, no issues. So this is straightforward. This is just copied and pasted out of the GitHub straight into here. The only weird thing I've found is this 168P clone here, which is red. They look exactly the same. These don't seem to work with UberChip. I use them on the PS Crystal, which is a different project for the dual region. And they're fine, and for the in-game reset, but for the UberChip and the UberDD on the PS1, the non-PIC version, yeah, the Arduino version, you want one of these. So this is a 328P, and that's not to say every 168P is not going to work. This should work. They've just got less memory on them. That's the only difference. Everything else should be the same. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Just open it up. The only downfall with these was I inadvertently ordered them with these headers on, and they're really hard to remove. So I'm just going to mount this down in this corner on the padding because it's just too much of a mess around to get rid of that. I want to leave the header there and everything. That's just update the other phone if you want to at some point. That'll just in there. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our Arduino, we've got our version 2.1 pasted in here. We're just going to go onto tools. So here's the 328 Arduino. We've got the source code here from GitHub pasted into our, what do you call it? This Arduino IDE, I guess. Genuino. So just here, that's from using a 168. We just want to move that to here. These clones have the old bootloader. You can move them across to the new one. There's no point. It's not going to make a difference. And then I've just got, yeah, Arduino Nano 328P old bootloader and Arduino ISP as programmer. That'd probably work in some other settings, but I'll just leave it there. No port yet because it's not plugged in. What's this one take? Oh, like the PS3 charger ones. Done. So that's no longer just a blank chip, that's an UberChip. I'll just bring up the install diagram on the GitHub. So we're just using the latest PU23 version here. I've just put them in separate folders to make things easier. But then when I updated it, I couldn't be bothered updating every single one. So the PU20, 22, 23 should all just be the same. And then the PU18 should also work on the PU8. But really for me, I'm only interested in PU20, 22, 23, and PU20s hardly ever turn up, whereas these two are very common. So this is a PU22, but I'm going into the PU23 folder. That's where you'll get your 2.1 Eno, which you're pasting in there, which I've just shown you. But in here you'll find your install. So yeah, I wouldn't use that one anymore. PU22 Stealth, and then there should be where's the additional wire needed on this model? I haven't put that in there. Oh, there it is, WSCK. Yes, so that's an additional wire on the old 4-wire old Crows. You would run a link wire, which is what I was doing for a little while for these, but the chip now on D10 is producing the signal that comes from that point and just injecting it there while the magic key is being squirted in. Once the game's booted successfully, it severs that connection, so you don't need to have that permanently wired in. Apparently you lose about 3 dB off your laser strength by having that permanently there. So this works around that. It just sends that frequency from that point into there, and then it just cuts it off. So that's one of the wires you'll need to do, and the rest, which we'll start on, is here. So yeah, let's do it. First off, let's just prep some wire. How many points we got? Ground, 3 point whatever, 6, data, lid sensor, and the WFCK5. So the longest one's going to be, pretty sure it's that point there. If you've got this wire wrapping wire and you accidentally get a knot in it or something, I'll just show you something. Like that's all it takes. One little tiny kink in this, throw it out. Like, I've done it a few times. So I'll make a bit more of a kink in there, but that's all it takes. That's going to cause faults. I learnt this in working on copper lines in comms. So that's a high resistance fault, that kink there. It doesn't look like anything, you've straightened it out. It's still, the signal's going to pass through it, but when it gets there, it's going to be like having an intermittent connection or a resistor in there that shouldn't be there. And you'll find if you just go like that, it'll always snap at the kinked point, and that's a weak point. So yeah, we used to, our test gear for ADSL lines for your internet, they'd often say, you know, there's a break in the cable at 150 meters, and you'd go there and you'd open the joint, it would look fine, and you'd just pull on it, and it would snap there where the test gear showed you that it was broken, and that it just caused shit connections. So yeah, kink your wire, break it off, don't straighten it out and use it. It's not good practice. So 5 wires, about that long should do it. Or maybe others a bit shorter. This will just help speed things up. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Strip a little bit off each end. Probably melt the other side in. You can use your tools, but nails are better on this wire, because as I showed, you can just, when you pinch there, yeah, you'll take the insulation off, but you can create a weak point there right on your joint. So an HR fault. On these sometimes as well, what I like to do is hold that on the wire just to pre-melt the bit that's just going to come off, so you don't have too much exposure, and then just trim it again. Another trick is, if that's too long when you've finished your joint, you strip the end off the wire and you hold the insulation and you slide it back down, and you just cover that gap there. It just makes for neatness. You don't want like really long exposed sections. Sometimes when you're trying to tack wires onto legs like that, you're sitting there heating it up, it'll just start just exposing itself. Sometimes it's alright, but usually you just want a tiny little bit there. That's plenty. Okay, so this solder here, I don't like it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't dry shiny. It's from an automotive shop. This here is my favorite brand. It's still the same brand, but they've changed their little logo. But when I was in comms, I had a huge roll of this, and it was, when I was working on copper, it was sort of redundant now. We're still on it. That modem's connected to copper. Hopefully we get an upgrade soon. Anyway, so yeah, the only stuff I could find was quite thick. I wish it was this thickness, but this brand. But anyway, it does the job. It's good stuff. What are we doing first? We got 3.3 volts. Which is, I don't do these all the time, so bear with me. Just there. I like to dip my wire in flux as well if I'm using liquid flux, just to get it perfect. That's our 3.3. Ground is there. You don't need to, but I'm going to remove the resistor here. It's this top one. Yep. It's the longest one. This one, just for neatness, which is the drive lid sensor, just going to pop that through under these legs. Select from data, which was the bottom there. That's that, and then we need the gate. Which is just, yeah, there above the fire. There you go, take a zoom in on those babies. That'll just need a clean up now with isopropyl. And then, now I'm not proud of it, like I said, I'm just probably going to hot glue that here, or double-sided tape it, because like these headers that came pre-soldered on are just, they're too thick, they're too hard to remove. I don't really feel like sitting there and using a desoldering gun to just be here all day. So yeah, we'll return shortly. Okay, double-sided tape. That's good stuff. I've used it to mount. What was that noise? Message? Yeah, mount ducting, cable ducting inside people's houses. This shit doesn't come off. Yeah, there was right. No, it wasn't. There we go. So D10 first, because that's the screen we're on, which was the WFCK. Where's that? Here. Usually I face this the other way. It doesn't really matter. This is a very easy soldering job, good for beginners in modding. I'm just going to melt these instead. The good thing about good quality solder is it doesn't matter how long you leave it on the tip. If you re-wet it, it's going to be perfect. It's a good habit to wipe it off, but this is good quality solder, so... Seen the tweezers. Yeah, so here, if you don't want to melt it in, tweezers come in handy. But I'm just going to melt it. There we go. We do need to add fresh flux because this is just shit solder from some... Not in a racist way, but just some shitty Asian factory in China. Where's this, something to wipe that with? Fucking leaky bottle. Yep. I'll have to edit that out. Ground. You can use the ground pin, but I'm just going to tack it onto the side here because that's a ground as well. To replace this bottle. That was a giant 3.3 blob. That's fine. That was 8, wasn't it? Yes. Data's 12. I'd say this is just isopropyl alcohol. I wonder if this one's leaky. Anyway, you can put this on pretty liberally. I like to just use a paintbrush. That's it. So some people will sit there and wait 20 minutes or whatever. Usually I'll just grab a hairdryer and put it on the cool setting and just blast it and get it all out from underneath where you can't see it. So I'll go do that now. Then we'll reassemble it and we'll just run it through a genuine game, a genuine import and a burnt game. Make sure it's working properly. We'll be using S-Video on this. My RGB cable's in the other room. So this is clean. I've blow dried it. That's the install done. I just got to grab a laser out of the PU18 here, which is going to be up on the bench soon for next station. That is not a screw hole. I'll usually clean these with an earbud or just pour a little bit of alcohol over it and wait for it to dry. But this one was working well. We'll need to swap that, they're different lengths. This will fit. That's no issue on a PU18 to PU22 swap. But just this one, we'll just grab off the old laser. So this one might have just needed a clean. It's okay to adjust the pots on these slightly as well. Doesn't really diminish their life that much. Sometimes you need to actually adjust it a little bit just because you're using different blank media. When I was a teenager I used 3 or 4 different brands and the perfectionist in me used to come out and I'd just sit there for ages tweaking it, trying to get a sweet spot where every brand of CDR would be perfect, but it was impossible. You get close, but there'd always be one brand that would just have a little skip in an FMV here and there. It would drive me crazy. But these days, I generally just stick to one brand. That's it, we can actually test this out now. Here's our S-Video. Yep. Just chuck the lid on. This one's going to have to go through the washing sink in the kitchen with some detergent. Scrub it out before I put it back together for real. So that's the UberChip in there. We'll just try a genuine game. Alright, this actually needed the laser to be cleaned. So there's our chip. I've moved the 11 across to 10, which was our WFCK for the gate. That was a mistake, but she's all good now. Just chuck that on. So this is a genuine game. Now this game would not boot without that WFCK wire or the old link wire, the old school way, unless you used the ability in the chip to turn it off, which is where you start the console with the lid open, and then when you get to the white screen you close it. That'll disable the chip. So that would previously allow games of the same region as the console to boot, genuine ones, but it wouldn't allow genuine import games to work, which is basically the only reason I made the 2.1 version. So here's Biohazard Gun Survivor. The old version, you could make a backup of this game and it would work, but you couldn't play the actual genuine disc because the magic key on genuine discs interferes with the injecting of the magic key from the chip. But, that'll boot right up, and then we'll just try a backup. This will do. This is meant to have anti-mod on it. So is Spyro 2, I think it is. I'm jamming Lammy. You're the dragon, that'll do. America. But yeah, that's it. Go nuts. It's sitting there on GitHub if you want to use it. Obviously, you can still use the MM3 or the Mayumi. I don't install them anymore because they take too long. That's pretty much the only reason. And I think this chip does have some advantages. I don't know exactly how the other chips work. But because this was written by me, I know that the WFCK signal is being turned off. It's not interfering with the system at all. I know exactly when the injections are stopping. The PS1 version has a blinking light to show you while it's working. Then when the lid's open for disk change, it's solid green, and then when it's in stealth mode, it's blinking once every 4 seconds. And if you start the console with the lid open and close it, and the chip's switched off, it's blinking every 10 seconds. But yeah, it's good to know exactly what's happening on the chip. So yeah, it's there on GitHub if you want to use it. And thanks to my lovely partner for dealing with having to record me, because this video took a little while. Longer than expected. Alright, cheers. Assembled now, she's good to go. Just one more thing I wanted to demonstrate. Traditional mod chips, there will be a massive waiting period if you want to get into the CD player because you've put a audio CD in. This one's just got this delay here before it starts the magic key injections. The audio CD is detected within that time frame, so it knows just to go into CD player. The old mod chips start just spamming in the magic key, and the console gets confused thinking it's a game disc, so it just sits there at this screen for quite a while. But yeah, straight into CD player. That's it. This one's ready to be shipped out. Cheers.